In the 7th year of our love-hate relationship, Alan met a woman he truly liked. Her name was Serena, a young actress who had just graduated. Pure and adorable, her smile resembled mine when I was younger. My friend said Serena was my substitute. To Alan, it was probably just a fleeting interest, a mere fling. After all, over the years, Alan and I had our shares of breakups and reconciliations. Everyone saw how that proud man laughed for me, cried for me, and broke his rigid bones for me. Everyone knew he loved me, that he couldn't live without me. I suddenly remember the night we broke up and then reconciled. Alan tore my dress and whispered in my ear, "We're destined to entangle and torment each other for life." I thought Alan could never love another woman like he loved me. Until our 3rd year of marriage, when our relationship cracked, and Serena appeared. At first, Alan disliked Serena. They met on a film set, playing a couple. Serena, a fan of Alan, would blush and hide her feelings every time they held hands or hugged. At that time, Alan and I were still in a good place. He always told me he disliked Serena's silly infatuation. He mocked her for wearing cartoon t-shirts, calling her childish, and for wearing hot shorts, calling her vulgar. He found everything about Serena annoying. Yet, perhaps even he didn't realize that every time he mentioned Serena, he did so with a smile. During our nightly phone calls, he started to become distracted, mostly because of Serena's silly questions. Alan complained but patiently answered her inquiries. Before hanging up one night, I asked Alan, "Can we not talk about Serena tomorrow?" He teased me, asking if I was jealous, while he blocked Serena's number. A few days later, Serena posted on social media, a passionate kiss scene, 2 people in love. "Tonight, I can't sleep, I want to talk all night with the person I like." That night, Alan didn't contact me. My calls went unanswered. I thought, this time, Alan's acting might have turned into real feelings for Serena. After that night, Alan seemed to fall out of love with me. We started a cold war. He didn't explain or try to appease me. For a whole month, we ignored each other. Until the wrap-up day of the shoot, during a live interview, a reporter asked him, "What do you want to do the most now that work is over?" He opened his phone, showed a photo of me in an apron, acting coquettishly with him, and said with a gentle smile, "I miss my wife the most right now, and I want to eat the food she cooks." In a way, Alan was my sponsor. Once he stopped loving me, I hid my true feelings, obeyed him, and focused on making money. That night, I cooked a big dinner, but Alan didn't come home. I didn't wait for him and went to bed early. Until midnight, he called me, seemingly drunk, affectionately babbling, "My sweet wife, my dear, I miss you so much. Come and pick me up." It had been a long time since he last called me his wife. My eyes welled up with tears, but I remained silent. His friends teased him over the phone. "Who's the big movie star calling?" "Is it Serena?" They shouted into the phone, "Sister-in-law. Today Alan made a wish to be with you forever, to always stay together." So, it turned out that Alan was calling Serena. He called her his sweet wife, and his friends followed suit, calling her sister-in-law. He had already integrated Serena into his life. Suddenly, I had a severe headache, abruptly ended the call, and buried myself under the covers, tightly wrapping myself up. It's okay. I can pretend not to care. My acting has always been good. News of my strained relationship with Alan spread quickly. People in the circle said he had fallen in love with Serena. He took her out for candlelit dinners, bought her houses and cars, and occasionally rented an entire amusement park to play on the childish merry-go-round with her. He liked her so much that he wanted to give her all the best things in the world. Even the ruby necklace I had long coveted but never managed to buy was recently purchased by Alan. I thought he would give it to Serena. But one morning, I woke up to find the necklace quietly lying on my bedside table. Beside it was a note that read, "Happy Anniversary." It was Alan's handwriting. I silently crumpled the note and threw it in the trash. I couldn't understand Alan's thoughts anymore and didn't want to. A few days later, I met Serena for the first time at a private dinner. She smiled when she saw me. Staring at my necklace, she said in a soft voice, "A few days ago, Mr. Allen bought me a bunch of jewelry. I thought this necklace looked a bit old-fashioned, so I let him give it to you. I always knew you were more mature. It suits you perfectly." Before, Mr. Allen said he doted on me like a child, and I was upset. I'm already 22, you know. But compared to you, I suddenly feel like I am indeed too young. I was stunned and suddenly felt so ridiculous. The anniversary gift I loved so much was actually Serena's reject. Seeing I was upset, Serena smiled even sweeter. She played with her hair and continued to boast, "Don't feel embarrassed about accepting the necklace. Wear it well. Mr. Allen buys me so many things, I can't wear them all. If you see anything else you like, just tell me. You can take it." I followed her lead and smiled, asking softly, "So if I like something, you'll give it to me?" Serena nodded proudly. I reached out and touched the sparkling diamond earrings on her ears, then suddenly yanked them off. Serena screamed in pain, bending over with her hands covering her ears as blood seeped through her fingers. I looked down at her with a faint smile and asked softly, "Thank you for the gift. Can I have the other earring too?" Serena's pupils trembled slightly, seemingly afraid of me. Her blood splattered everywhere, causing a stir among the people around us. Allen arrived soon after. Seeing the blood on the ground, his expression turned cold and fierce. He pulled me into his arms, checking me over and over again. The concern and tension in his eyes seemed genuine. Serena released her hand, letting the blood flow down her ear and drip onto her white dress. She reached out to Allen, saying softly, "Mr. Allen, it hurts so much." Allen raised his arm, avoiding her, and gave her a cold glance. That look left Serena frozen in place, biting her lip awkwardly. She didn't understand that Allen, born into a wealthy family, could afford to keep a mistress for private fun, but making a public scene was too embarrassing. In public, Allen could only love me. His fingers caressed my furrowed brows, gently coaxing, "Who upset you?" I didn't respond, and no one else dared to speak. 2 seconds later, Allen suddenly picked up a nearby vase and smashed it on the ground, angrily shouting, "Are you all deaf? Who upset my wife? Speak up." The atmosphere was oppressively tense. Serena clenched her fists, shouting in despair, "It's me, it's all my fault." "Okay? Allen." Finally, she couldn't hold back anymore. With tears rolling down her cheeks, Serena stubbornly looked at Allen and choked up, "It's my fault for wanting to get close to her, only to be disliked by her. It's my fault for deluding myself, thinking he liked me too. I'm just a fool." She lifted her wine glass over her head and poured it down, mixing the wine and blood, staining the fabric on her chest. She cried and asked Allen, "Mr. Allen, is this enough? Is your beloved wife satisfied now?" Allen's hand gripped my shoulder, getting tighter. Maybe he felt sorry for me. He asked me, "Are you satisfied now?" I couldn't help but laugh, tears almost spilling out. I asked Allen, "Pretending to love me must be tiring, right?" "Allen, I have a good solution so you can rightfully love the person you want to love. Give me money, a lot of it, and then we can divorce." Allen's gaze grew colder. He leaned down to my ear and cursed viciously, "Zena, I should have realized sooner that you're just a money-grubbing fraud. You'll pay for betraying true love." I laughed, enduring the headache, and pushed him away, turning to leave. "Allen, you're such a jinx. I haven't told you yet, but the doctor said there's something wrong with my brain. I might have pain, memory loss, or maybe I might die." Allen was right. Initially, I accepted his advances for his money. Before him, I passionately liked another boy. Allen knew everything but still desperately treated me well, insisting on being with me, from dating to marriage. I remember the rainy day Allen proposed to me. We were curled up on the sofa watching a romantic movie. He suddenly leaned in and whispered, "Zena, just say you love me, and I'll marry you right away." All my money will be yours to manage." My heart pounded so loud. The words, "I love you," almost slipped out, but it felt a bit unsatisfactory. What a lackluster proposal. So, I shook my head, deliberately provoking him. At that time, Alan was shamelessly thick-skinned. He somehow produced a large diamond ring and tried to put it on my finger. I tried to run, but he simply grabbed my neck and pinned me down on the sofa. He bit my ear and threatened, "Keep being stubborn, and I'll strangle you." That day, Alan's kisses almost melted me, and I said many times, "Alan, I love you. I really loved you before. But you never truly believed me. My illness gets worse day by day. Swallowing handfuls of medicine, I still suffer from headaches and can't eat or sleep." Soon, I began to forget little things about Alan. My condition worsened, and the doctor prescribed more medication. As I was leaving, he frowned and asked, "Why do you always come alone for treatment? Where is your family? Your illness requires the care and companionship of family. But I have no family, what should I do? When I was 6, my mother left me on the street, saying she was going to buy me candy. Then, she never came back. I thought I'd never see my mother again in my life. Until I met Serena in the hospital. The ear I had injured was swollen, and she was there to change the dressing. Accompanying her was a middle-aged woman. I almost thought I was seeing things. That woman looked like my mother. I uncontrollably ran towards her, and Serena stepped back in fright. My mother protected her, pushing me hard, pointing at my nose and cursing, "You wretch, you want to bully my daughter, don't you?" Suddenly, she grabbed my hair, yelling, "Dare to bully my daughter, and I'll kill you." She slapped me, and I couldn't dodge in time. Blood seeped from the corner of my mouth, and tears suddenly fell. My mother seemed not to recognize me, she had forgotten me long ago. She now had another daughter, Serena. In fact, when I was 13 and collecting plastic bottles on the street, I had once encountered my mother. She was across the road, holding Serena's hand, laughing and talking gently. I ran towards her with all my might, shouting, "Mom, Zena is here. Mom, don't go." She stopped, turned around slowly, and looked at me in surprise. Serena tugged at her clothes, disdainfully calling me a beggar, dirty. I didn't cry out for my mother like I did at 13, saying, "Mom, I'm Zena." I pushed her away as she once did to me. Taking the opportunity, she ripped off my mask, fell to the ground, and screamed, "The big star is hitting people, Zena is hitting people." Serena froze for 2 seconds, then suddenly took off her mask and knelt before me, pleading, "Zena, I know you've always disliked me. You're more famous than me. I can endure it when you hit or scold me, but my mother is old, please don't make it hard for her." Many people took out their phones to record and watch. Serena really put on a good show. I should have covered my face and left immediately to protect my reputation. But I couldn't control myself and grabbed Serena's hair. I looked into her eyes, icily saying, "You're such a dutiful daughter, little sister. Then I won't be polite, I'll return what your mother did to me." I swung my bag at Serena's face, again and again. My heart ached. If I couldn't vent, I might have jumped off a building. Life is so painful. My mother jumped on me, tearing at me. Maybe when she realizes I'm the Zena she abandoned, she'll never forgive me again. But it doesn't matter, Mom, if you don't want Zena, Zena doesn't want you either. The video of me hitting Serena spread quickly online. Netizens stormed my Weibo, cursing, "Are you jealous because Serena is younger and prettier than you, hitting someone's face so hard? Serena, don't cry, I know where Zena lives, I'll avenge you." I saw this comment in the underground garage, just after parking my car, ready to go upstairs home. Suddenly I heard someone call me, "Are you Zena?" I turned around to see a man with a baseball bat, his eyes fierce, swinging at me. I couldn't react in time and was suddenly pulled into an embrace. Alan held me tight, and the baseball bat hit his back hard. He turned and kicked the man over, cursing viciously, "Dare to touch my wife, and I'll kill you." Alan beat the man relentlessly. For a moment, I almost forgot we were in the midst of a divorce, thinking he still loved me deeply. But I had forgotten how Alan loved me. Alan hadn't come home for a long time. He came to find me because of Serena. The house was a mess. I was in constant pain and had no energy to clean. Alan rolled up his sleeves and started cleaning. He picked up my lingerie from the sofa, teasing me, "Zina, you're really not cut out to be a wife. You should learn how Serena takes care of people." Yes, because Serena is obedient, Mom loves her. Because Serena is obedient, Alan fell in love with her too. I suddenly got angry, throwing the clothes Alan had tidied onto the floor. I argued with him, "Rather than making me apologize to her, you might as well stab me to death." Alan leaned on the sofa, pulling me into his embrace, holding my waist so I couldn't break free. He laughed and scolded, "You never listen, always been a troublemaker." He took out his phone, called the film festival jury, and had me removed from the Best Actress Award nominations. I've been in the industry for 10 years, nominated for Best Actress 3 times, always a runner-up. Finally, this year, I was sure to win the award. For that award, I fell down a hillside, my forehead gashed open, bleeding, but I insisted on not using a stunt double and completed the entire film. That golden trophy was earned with my life. I knocked Alan's phone away, a tear dropping on my arm, and scolded him, "Don't be so despicable." "Alan." He easily leaned his chin on my shoulder, smiling and asking me, "Do you want to apologize? Think it over and then tell me." Finally, I couldn't hold back and burst into tears. I shouted at him, "Alan, I'm sick. I can't act anymore. I'll never have another chance to win an award. You love Serena, you want to avenge her, so you exploit my weakness. But I refuse to make her happy, I won't apologize." My face was smeared with tears, full of unexpressed grievances. I grabbed Alan's hand and bit it hard. He furrowed his brows, silently enduring. When I had cried enough and looked up, Alan's eyes were also red. He cupped my face, softly saying, "Zina, rather than saying I love Serena, it's more accurate to say I hate you. I used to love you to death, but you only loved my money, using it to support another man. You're really something. Stop crying, it's just a trophy. I'll give it to you." He embraced me, kissing my ear. It was like a farewell, slowly saying, "Zina, this is the last time I'll be nice to you." But this time, Alan lied to me. On the day of the awards ceremony, I wore the most glamorous dress and the most expensive jewelry, hoping to make a grand exit. But the host announced on stage, "Best Actress, Serena." My motion to stand up, holding my dress, was captured by the media, turning into a joke. Serena, holding the shiny trophy, smiled at Alan, cooing, "The person I like promised me that if I win the trophy tonight, he'll come home with me to meet my mom. Mom has made reunion dumplings and is waiting for us to come home to eat." She was so happy, having everything I wanted. My headache returned. For the last time, I looked at Alan, and he began to blur in my eyes, heart, and memory. Blinking, I asked him, "But, who are you?" I fainted at the awards ceremony. When I woke up, I was in the hospital, and my agent Zoe was arguing with Alan. She pointed at me and accused Alan, who was sitting on the sofa. "How did Zina wrong you that you need to hurt her like this?" Alan furiously threw a photo in his hand. It showed me in another man's embrace. Zoe was stunned, but Alan sarcastically asked her, "Why are you silent now? Feeling guilty? Did Zina ever think about hurting me when she was hugging and cuddling with another man behind my back? Did she ever think she was hurting me when she used my money to send another man abroad for studies?" Zoe interrupted him, "Why didn't you ask Zina to clarify these things?" Alan scoffed and bitingly said, "From dating to marriage, I chased her like a dog. Apologizing and making up was always on me. Now she's cheating, and I should take the initiative to ask her why she doesn't love me anymore, if I'm not good enough? Am I that pathetic? I, Alan, am not short of women. There are many who sweet talk and know how to charm, but Zina is the first to dare cheat on me. She should." Before Alan could finish, Someone pushed open the hospital room door, strode in, and punched him in the face. The man flexed his wrist and looked down at Alan, introducing himself. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Brian, the first man Xena liked." Alan immediately recognized that Brian was the man in the photo, the one I financed to study abroad. The two well-dressed men quickly got into a fight. Zoe shouted in panic, "Alan, stop it. Brian is Xena's primary physician." He hugged Xena because she was diagnosed with an illness that day. She was terrified and crying, "Calling you, but you hung up because you had argued the day before. Where were you when she needed you most? What right do you have to be angry here?" Alan paused for a moment, which was enough for Brian to kick him over. Alan sat on the floor in despair, murmuring, "When did Xena ever call me?" He didn't know I had called because Serena had answered his phone that day. I was in tears, wanting Alan to come home and comfort me. Instead, I heard Serena mock me, "Sick? Serves you right." She hung up, and I held the phone for a long time, not calling back. Alan, who was particularly private, used to let only me touch his phone. Later, Serena could casually use it too. I knew then that I was no longer Alan's only one. He was distracted in love, something I couldn't forgive. From that day, I slowly started planning my revenge. The first thing I did when I woke up was to grab Brian's coat. Frowning, somewhat angrily, I scolded him, "Brian, you thug, why are you fighting again?" Brian and I grew up together in the orphanage, childhood sweethearts. He was always the fiercest fighter in the orphanage, usually fighting for me. Seeing Brian's bruised fists, I asked him, "Does it hurt?" Alan stepped forward, grabbing my wrist and pulling my hand away from Brian's clothes. He looked at me coldly, holding back his anger, and asked, "Xena, who are you concerned about? Your man is right here." I looked at him, slowly withdrawing my hand, and counter-asked, "Am I married?" Alan's expression changed. He patted my head twice, laughing, pretending again, "Xena? Have you had enough of the tricks you learned in the orphanage?" "Not enough, of course not. Who else but the cunning Xena?" Zoe threw my medical report at Alan. "My illness causes selective memory loss of certain people and events." Alan couldn't accept that I remembered Zoe, Brian, and many other trivial people and things. I was the only one who didn't remember everything about him. He didn't believe I was really sick, so he brought in countless experts to examine me, but the results always disappointed him. He spent entire nights by my bedside, and sometimes, I heard him crying. When I opened my eyes, I saw him sitting on the sofa, holding my diary. That diary detailed the story of Alan's change of heart. He closed the diary and gently smiled when he saw me awake. He looked disheveled, not very attractive. I advised him, "Don't come tomorrow. Our relationship isn't good, there's no need to pretend like you love me. Don't you like that, Serena? Prepare for the divorce, I'll make room for her." Alan pinched my face, shaking it a bit angrily, refuting, "Who said I like Serena? I, Alan, only love Xena, remember that. I was just trying to upset you earlier. Seeing you and Brian together drove me crazy. I had told Alan before we were together that I liked someone else. He said it didn't matter, he was just helping me out financially. He wanted me to see him as a generous benefactor." Later, when Brian got an opportunity to study abroad, it was the first time I shamelessly asked Alan for money. He agreed readily, without asking why I needed it. Until recently, he traced back my past with Brian through that hug photo. In reality, we were just two orphans who relied on each other. Alan humbly apologized, "It's my fault for misunderstanding you. Be good, we won't divorce, I'll definitely find someone to cure you. Once you remember, you can hit or scold me, but just one thing, Xena, you can't forget me. Please don't forget me." His eyes were red, looking rather pitiful. I suddenly laughed, asking him, "Although I don't remember you, Alan, isn't it that you never really trusted me? Because I'm an orphan, raised in an orphanage with no one to guide me, you loved me but also looked down on me, thinking I was inherently despicable and dirty." Alan's expression turned to pain. He defensively said, "Number." But I just stared at the ceiling, calmly telling him, "Alan, what can be forgotten is never important. I don't want you anymore." I spoke of divorce, but Alan treated it as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. He took me to my favorite restaurant, walked the shaded paths we used to enjoy, and repeatedly told me little stories of how we loved each other. But I still couldn't remember anything. On a summer evening, Alan took me to a park we often visited, choosing a secluded spot to cool off. He opened a bottle of my favorite lemon-flavored soda and offered it to me, smiling, "Your favorite, lemon flavor." I didn't accept it, shrugging, "I don't like lemon anymore, nor do I like it here." He looked a bit dejected and cautiously asked, "What do you like now?" "I'll buy it for you next time." I glanced at my phone. It was getting late. Brian was coming to pick me up for a concert. He approached from the end of the shaded path, waving at me, holding my favorite strawberry soda. Alan's brows furrowed immediately. As I tried to get up, he grabbed my arm, preventing me from moving. "Don't go, Zena. Don't leave with him." He seemed to only repeat these words. I warned him, "Alan, you can't interfere with my personal freedom. You say you can close your eyes and see our beautiful memories, but I don't remember them. You shouldn't use your memories to hold me hostage. I want to continue my life without you. Besides, not all of our past was pleasant." I pried Alan's fingers off, and he panicked like a child afraid of being abandoned, following me as I stood up, trailing behind me step by step. Brian didn't even glance at him but simply raised a pink fan, blowing my damp bangs and sweaty nose. He knew I hated the heat the most. Alan tried to stop me again upon seeing the concert tickets in his hand. "Zena, this band is too noisy for you. Let's not go, okay? I'll play the piano for you instead." Brian was unhappy with this. He suddenly lost his temper, pushed Alan away, and coldly scolded, "Stop acting like a saint. You don't know anything. You think everything she likes is what you like. Let me tell you, she hates quiet, hates summer, hates stuffiness, hates parks, hates lemons, hates piano. And now, she also hates you." That night, I followed my favorite band, singing loudly, "Goodbye, youth." The next day, I woke up to find myself trending on social media. The hashtag Zena cheating during marriage was at the top. Marketing accounts shared videos of me holding a beer, arm in arm with Brian. Serena sneakily posted on Weibo, calling me dirty. The accompanying picture was of a rotten cabbage, captioned, "A woman who doesn't respect herself is like rotten cabbage." Alan then posted several GIFs from the concert the night before, showing my side profile from a distance, smiling freely in each one. He wrote, "A misunderstanding. I was there last night too. The first time accompanying my wife to a concert, she was as happy as a rabbit eating strawberries, jumping around, so adorable. I didn't know Alan was behind me all along. He tagged me, seeking an answer, but I didn't reply." At noon, I published a lengthy explanation about my relationship with Brian. Starting from my orphanage days, I wrote about how he protected me, how my mother abandoned me, how she repeatedly pushed me away for Serena, and why I lost control and hit Serena. The post included a faded photo of my mother holding me, neither of us smiling. Netizens compared this photo with the one from the reality show Serena and her mother appeared in, realizing they were the same person. This revelation caused a huge uproar online, and everyone bombarded Serena's Weibo, condemning her mother as immoral. Serena quickly shut down her account. 2 days later, my mother posted a long article on her Weibo, admitting she once had a daughter who got lost due to her playfulness. Soon after, numerous scandals about Serena surfaced online. Sleeping with company executives before her debut, secretly insulting her fans, and her mother being investigated for illegal gambling. She called me, begging, "Zena, save Mom, ask your husband to help." I quietly listened to her crying on the phone and softly said, "Mom, Zena is gone. You should go with her, to hell, to accompany your Zena." I hung up the phone laughing. Alan, leaning on the sofa, closed his book and asked me, "So happy?" He tried hard to appear calm, but the anxiety in his eyes, like an eager dog seeking approval, betrayed him. He pulled me to sit beside him, leaning wearily on my shoulder, almost pleading, "Zena, I'll treat you so well that you'll fall in love with me again, okay? Don't leave me, don't fall for someone else." 3 months passed in a flash, and Alan still played deaf and dumb whenever I mentioned divorce. The good news was that my condition finally stabilized. Alan saw me packing sugar for Brian. He tugged at me, a bit petulantly asking, "Is there more?" "I want some too." Actually, there was a lot. I turned back to smile at him, sheepishly saying, "It's all for Brian. He has several surgeries this afternoon. I'm afraid he'll get hypoglycemia." Alan's expression flickered with loneliness, then he forced a smile and ruffled my hair, praising me. "My wife is so considerate, just like before." I remained silent in the elevator with only 3 of us, feeling a unique sense of solitude. As the elevator doors opened, I saw Serena charging in with a fruit knife, disheveled and shouting like a madwoman, "Go to hell." Serena's reputation was utterly ruined, with brands severing contracts and her paying hefty penalties for breach of contract. She must have gone insane. I reacted quickly, pulling Brian out of the way. Only Alan was left, maintaining a protective stance, and was stabbed in the shoulder by Serena's knife. The chaos came too fast. By the time everyone reacted, Alan had collapsed. His gaze stayed on me as I saw the light in his eyes, the one that always believed, "I love him," extinguish. I agreed to a divorce with Alan. He gave me a lot of money, which I, of course, accepted. He cheated during our marriage. It was what I deserved. On the day I saw Alan at the Civil Affairs Bureau, he looked terribly haggard. I heard that Serena's knife hit a critical spot, and his heart was severely damaged, requiring a lifetime to recover. As he opened his mouth to speak, I didn't want to listen. I waved goodbye and got into Brian's car. In the rearview mirror, Alan's figure faded into the distance. Brian laughed, calling me the most poisonous woman's heart. I laughed too. I could love someone with all my heart, and of course, hate someone with equal fervor. "Alan, I have a secret I will never tell you. I faked my amnesia.